But this brush fire was reported around 2 o'clock, 2:40, just within that hour. And there were a few firefighters that were on the scene pretty quickly. We're in a pretty dry area. We get a bunch of forest fires. So for a brush fire, we got to put that stuff out pretty immediately. The unfortunate part is that when these firefighters turned up on this brush fire, 2 of them were shot and killed. Nationers! Welcome back to a brand new episode of The Realest Podcast, episode 77. The banner is right behind me. Nationers, it is great to see you guys in here. I do want to let you guys know, there was a few episodes ago where I had to re-record an entire episode. Now, same thing kind of happened, but luckily, it was not a 1 hour recording lost in the ether. Luckily, it was only around 10 minutes of talking, more like yapping, because you know me, I like to yap, but I noticed it. I forgot to grab the SD card once again and put it back into the podcast device here, the Rodecaster that I have. And unfortunately, I thought it was a great intro, but we're back. But it's great to see you guys in here for episode 77 of the Realest Podcast. Super excited because I feel like we're just like approaching like episode 100. And I feel like in a few weeks, I mean, it's going to be like 20 plus weeks, we're just going to hit it. And that's going to be super exciting. I'm super excited for that. And most importantly, I hope that you guys are excited for today's episode because we have a lot of topics to talk about. Some a little bit more grim, some a little bit more lighthearted and fun. But most importantly, I at least want to thank you guys for watching and listening to my podcast, The Realest Podcast. It's the realest podcast on the internet. It really is. We're the realest community on the internet. This is the realest podcast on the internet. It's a statistical fact. Please do not ever look it up, but I know for a fact, I've seen articles, I've seen like the Times Magazine talk about it, People's Magazine, the Guardian, the Athletic, the AP. There was a whole bunch of articles about it. I don't know what really happened to them, but they're out there, but don't look them up. All of that to say, I want to thank you guys again so much for listening and watching. Most importantly, if you guys are new here and are watching for the very first time, make sure to hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. I know last year I mentioned our goal was to hit 1,000 subscribers, but this year, this is the goal that we are going to hit on this channel. Oh my goodness, I am super excited. I hope that you guys are excited because every single week, every Sunday, sometimes Monday, depending on the situation, we will be dropping a podcast episode. And most importantly, Nationers, I hope that you guys are doing well. It is great to see you guys back. I always love coming into the studio, always love the environment in here. It can get a little crowded, can get a little messy, but most importantly, I really do enjoy it in here. It is such a vibe. Every time that I turn on this mic, put on this headset, I get to say Nationers, welcome back to said podcast, The Realest Podcast on the internet. It warms my heart, and I hope that it does for you because I get to be a content creator for a living. I really do. I don't have to do this, but I get to do this. This is something that I'm very passionate about, something that I truly love. And most importantly, your support means the world to me. So thank you again. If you guys have subscribed and are already subscribed to this channel on YouTube, if you guys are listening on anywhere, any platform that you guys get your devices, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Or I guess it's a term. It's a term of endearment. I feel like the bottom of the heart is like the depths of like the basement. You know what I mean? But from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys again so much for your support. I love seeing all of the people that I get to see. I'm like, oh my goodness, this podcast did this many numbers. And I'm like, wow, where are people watching it from? Or I get to see a little bit of that data, which is kind of nice. So thank you guys, most importantly. I really appreciate you guys, especially this far into this podcast. 77 episodes is crazy. I'm excited for every podcast from here on out. Let's get into today's episode. I do want to start off with a disclaimer. As I mentioned, some of the topics today are going to be pretty grim. The main topic that I want to talk about is going to be pretty grim, and some other things that have happened throughout the world. They're pretty grim. So I hope you guys are okay. I don't really know how to do anything like this, but they're pretty grim. Just be aware that there will be some things in relation to things very specific here in Spokane and the inland Northwest that have definitely happened that are very tragic. Some things I want to talk about And it happened overseas, over in Spain, with the death of a professional football player and his younger brother. And on top of that, there's going to be some lighthearted stuff. So that's also another disclaimer. There will be some lighthearted stuff. Obviously, if you guys watch on YouTube, you guys will have the little chapters so you guys can kind of skip around. But I want to start off this podcast. Most importantly, I want to I'm getting a text by a friend, by the way. So my watch is buzzing. And one of my friends, Armand, I was on his podcast. He posted this photo with Ludwig, and I was like, Armand, you're getting so good at Photoshop, because he's a big Ludwig fan, and I knew that it wasn't Photoshop. I'm going to say that here right now on the record, but oh, he's watching. Hold on. Oh, this is so funny. Oh my God, that's so funny. He had my tweet pulled up. Yo, there's no way that I'm on a Ludwig live stream. Jared Hathaway, that's so funny. I wonder what the comments of it said. Oh my gosh. I really want to That's so funny. My tweets there saying, I wonder what he said. I might have to go back and watch that said podcast or live stream. It's not a podcast. We're recording a podcast right now, so that is so funny. Shout out Armand. I was on his podcast. I'm actually going to link it down in the description below in case you guys actually want to go watch that. I basically talked about how I stole $10,000 from Airrack, another creator that we've talked about on this podcast quite a bit. But how I stole $10,000 from him legally. I'll link that down in the YouTube description in case you guys want to go watch that. I'm getting ahead of my words here. But on a light note, the 4th of July. I looked it up when I was in the first recording of this, but the 4th of July ended up being on a Friday. That was the first 4th of July on a Friday since 2014. That is insane. I was looking back and I was like, I don't remember a time where there was a 4th of July on the 4th, or excuse me, a 4th of July on a Friday. It's been 11 years since that was even a thing. It got to like a Saturday, and then a leap year kind of changed it back to a Thursday, and it just kind of kept going. So you're like, oh my goodness, another leap year. And you know that it's going to hit it by then, but my gosh. So 4th of July, it was great. We had some chili dogs. I had some chili dogs and some chili fries. I love a good chili dog. If you ever are hosting an event and you have chili dogs with cheese, no onions, no red onions, none of those, but with cheese, and you have chicken tenders, and you have, you know what, we'll throw in lemonade. If you have all three of those, you got me sold. I will be at your event no matter what. I don't care if I'm the only person there. I will be there. That chili dog is getting eaten. Those chicken tenders and fries are getting eaten. Preferably ranch, barbecue sauce, or honey mustard. I don't mind anything else, but preferably those three condiments. And lemonade. You got me there. I don't care if it's like a furry convention. I'm going. All of that to say, 4th of July was great. Had a hot dog, 2 hot dogs, chili cheese dogs. Had a hamburger with chili on it. It was so good. It's been great. 4th of July was great. Didn't get to go see the fireworks, unfortunately, but was able to eat some hot dogs, able to have some burgers, and of course, just work throughout the day. As much as like 4th of July is like an Independence Day, we live in like the suburbs. Like there's no parade coming through our street. Now, yes, there are parades that do come throughout the surrounding areas. There's one in Liberty Lake. I have a whole vlog on that. There's one in downtown Spokane. It's just really not something that I'm just like, oh, let's go to a parade. Ah! It's not for me. However, on the Realest Podcast, I want to get real. There was a death that happened not long before the 4th of July. On the 3rd of July, kind of flipping notes. We're going to kind of go from grim to really lighthearted, and then we're going to get into today's topic. But Diogo Jota, a professional Liverpool player. He plays for the team. He also played for the Portugal national team in their run to a Nations League final win also. He tragically passed away. Super insane, especially, yes, people die from car crashes every single day. I always feel like there's this weird microcosm or just like microscope, especially when it's a professional athlete or someone like an actor or just anyone that seems to be on like a higher status than just like semi-normal people, if that makes sense. The average person. I'm also getting more images, by the way. This is I'm getting more photos by Armand. But he unfortunately did pass away. Him and his younger brother, Andre Silva, were driving. They were about 5 hours into a 10-hour drive from Spain to a ferry on the north side of Spain, heading back to England because he just had a lung surgery, a minor lung surgery that he just went under, and the doctor recommended not to fly back, so they were taking a Lamborghini Urus, I believe that's the car, back over to England. And unfortunately, when they were overtaking a car, one of their rear tires actually blew out and caused the car to spin into a barrier at a pretty rapid speed. The car ended up going into flames, and they both tragically passed. Now, I don't exactly know much details. I've seen a few videos of kind of the cleanup. It is very horrific to see any car crash. I've seen the Paul Walker one. That is like burned into my brain. I seen like a little diagram of like, I was like, I didn't need to see that diagram. I could have lived my life without that. So I hope I don't see one for this because it did happen in the dead of night, 12 p.m. And it's crazy because you get the operation. He just got married. He just won the Nations League final. He's survived by 3 kids and his now wife, who he had been together with for over a decade before they just got married. And again, microcosm, microscope onto a situation like this. It is just tragic, especially I think more in light to everything that he had going for him from having a successful football career. You know, he's played nearly 200 games for Liverpool. He's had many appearances for the Portugal team. It's unfortunate because after winning, he's had probably one of the best months of his life, his wife even included, somebody that's been with him through his entire journey, living her own life, of course, but obviously also living vicariously through him as well. Probably what, many would consider probably the best months of their life. If you had got your dream job, you just got married or just got engaged or just got a new keys to an apartment, a house even. And a few weeks later, you're gone. That sounded kind of grim. I'm not going to lie. Sorry. I didn't mean for my tone to be like that. But you pass away in a very tragic way. Nothing, I don't exactly know how things turned out from a flame standpoint when the car was engulfed, but it's tragic, especially given the circumstances. He just had a kid last November. Again, had probably one of the best months of his life, and you put anyone in that situation, it's tragic. Not only that, he lost his brother. A brother lost him. His parents lost both their sons. It's rough. And I know a lot of people have said life's not fair, and that's more of a testament to what life, the beauty of life that it is. And yeah. On another note, Grand Slam track. There's a lot of pre-topics. Let me talk about NBA Summer League. As of right now, I'm recording the 76ers and the Utah Jazz because I want to watch VJ Edgecombe and Ace Bailey, who I did not talk highly about in my draft winners and losers in last week's episode. But both of them are playing in the Summer League right now. So I got that recording. So once I finish this, oh baby, we are in for business. Anywho, NBA Summer League. It's going on. It's a start. There was a game earlier between Memphis and OKC. I did not watch any bit of that game because I did not know that it was going on. In other news, Grand Slam track is in a little bit of a hole. There's been some speculation and reports going out that there are $13 million in unpaid prize money to all of the athletes, challengers, racers, who you name it. Anyone that won that earned money, they have not seen a good chunk of that. Grand Slam Track is kind of one of those alternative leagues that you can kind of join if you are looking for prize money, if you are looking for good competition. They've signed on some pretty mega athletes like Sydney McLaughlin-Lavroni, Kenny Benderek. They've also signed in some really good distance runners in the space. There's a lot of star power in that league. A lot of people want to go race, and a lot of people want to be a part of an event like that, especially because the prize money is good. It is the most paying meet in track ever. $100,000 to the winner, I think $50K to second, and it just kind of works its way down. So even if you get eighth, you still walk away with $8,000, I believe. Excuse me, $10,000? That could be wrong. But $10,000 is kind of the number that's sticking into my head. I could be wrong on that specific number, but even then, you're still walking away with a good chunk of money, even if you place last in points. Even if you're a challenger and you're just going for this one meet, you still walk away with probably a good profit back just because of all of the talent that you put into this sport. It's amazing. One of the big gripes about track is that it's not a super high paying sport. You need eyes. The same thing with like the WNBA. A lot of people want these big mega contracts, but when you're talking about it, you have to also make money behind it. There has to be eyeballs attached to it. There has to be sponsorships, money that can actually aid your guys' contract, these franchises that get a cut for it. Now, yes, I'm sure that there's cricket leagues that are mega. There's no cricket over here. Basketball, at least track, is a little bit more international. You get people from Poland, you get people from Australia, you get people from Indonesia. I'm trying to get rich. Sorry, I just had to do the Indonesian aura farming. I had to do it for a second. I had to do it. So if you guys are listening and wondering why, I was hitting the little aura farming thing that that kid does. I can't seem to get my hands right. I can't seem to get the cycling right. It's anywho, I'm getting distracted. But there are reports going around that Grand Slam Track is a little bit in a financial hole. There seems to be some instability within the company, and it's not looking too great for them. Especially, and one of the more microscopic things that I think a lot of people are pinpointing is that, especially with a high amount of money that they are spending every single meet, and all of the prize money, all of the production and broadcasting, all the cameras, shutting down venues, shutting down roads, and especially looking at the revenue gaps between what it looks and what it costs to run a meet and actually host it, prize money, all of that, versus how much revenue they're bringing in. There seems to be this microscope around the LA meet that did not happen. I think LA would have done bits, but for it to get canceled, one of the biggest meets that I think of this year, just eyeballs, but it's LA. LA and track are like that, and also Oregon, but LA, they're best buds. It's just kind of sad to see that maybe there is some financial risk that was taken, and they might have not actually won on that bet. So I'm intrigued to see what comes of it, because Michael Johnson, the founder, the CEO, I'm assuming he's the CEO, but the founder, one of the big spokespeople for Grand Slam Track, he's there's been a lot of haters towards him and a lot of haters towards that league just because there is no field events. But it sucks to see, because I enjoyed all of it. It's on the CW channel, which most things on the CW channel don't really have like the greatest impression on it. So all that to say, a little bit of track news. We'll talk about it a little bit later with the Prefontaine Classic, but as of right now, something that hit home, hit close to home. Coeur d'Alene is not super far from Spokane. It's about a 30-minute drive. We're pretty synonymous. We're best friends. We're in the Inland Northwest. There's a few cities, obviously outside. We have Airway Heights. We have Cheney. We have Spokane. We got Liberty Lake. We have Post Falls. We have Coeur d'Alene, Rathdrum even. There's these small little pockets of these small little town cities, whatever you want to call it. But we're all pretty much the Inland Northwest. And unfortunately, there was a very tragic story about two firefighters that unfortunately were murdered. A third that is in critical condition, seems to be recovering, but unfortunately is in critical condition. Now, the crazy part is that this happened while I was at Hoop Fest. Now, I talked about Hoop Fest. I talked about things like that, but there happened to be this bushfire. Now, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I don't really know how to deliver this because it is a pretty grim story, but I want to talk about it in detail just because maybe you guys, if you guys aren't from Spokane, maybe you guys heard a little bit about this story. It seemed to be getting pretty domestic news. Like it was on like ABC. Like I've seen people talk about it on TikTok. I've seen people talk about it on Instagram. I've seen just people that you would never really think about like talk about it. But there was a story that broke earlier this week. And again, this is like right after I'm coming from Hoop Fest. Like I got home at like 2:00. This happened at 2:00. So on the afternoon of the 29th of June, there was a reported bushfire over in the Canfield Mountain near Coeur d'Alene. Now, if you guys look at any aerial view, this is Coeur d'Alene here. There's a little lake on this little bottom side. The mountains are just kind of off to the right side. There's just kind of this mountainy region. You know, people have houses up there. There's probably a few roads that kind of go through most of that mountain. But there was a reported brush fire, I think is the formal term. But this brush fire was reported around 2:00, 2:40, you know, just within that hour. And there were a few firefighters that were on the scene pretty quickly. We're in a pretty dry area. We get a bunch of forest fires. So for a brush fire, we got to put that stuff out pretty immediately. The unfortunate part is that when these firefighters turned up on this brush fire, 2 of them were shot and killed by a sniper. Not just like a 12-gauge shotgun, not a rifle, which we'll talk about in a sec, but they were killed by a sniper. Now, my initial thought, just knowing those few details, it's like, wow, well, this guy must be like ex-military. Maybe he has a little vendetta against firefighters because out of all of the first responders, I know cops already have their own thing going on. A lot of people look at him pretty different. I think firefighters are just like, man, I am glad that they're there. I'm glad that they put my house out. I'm glad that they're, risking their lives, their lungs, dealing with extreme heat to put out these fires. Their perception in general is pretty good. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. And so for 2 firefighters and a third that is critically injured, for multiple firefighters to be ambushed in a sniper rifle, by a sniper rifle, that is, it is jarring. The news reports that came out as hours were going on throughout that day. I know I was recording that day and kind of hearing more and more. My mom had came home and there was a lot of stuff from one hospital to the next, and everyone was kind of getting moved because there was a crap ton of stuff going down. They had to put a lockdown on many of the hospitals. It's heartbreaking. It's tragic. There was a procession later that night. And I believe 2 days later on a Tuesday, there was a procession. Pretty much, there's a ton of bridges on this highway. I-90, if you got all the way from Boston, like I rode on I-90 when I was in Boston a few years ago, all the way to Seattle, I-90. It's the interstate highway. Interstate freeway? One of the two. Now, this interstate has a ton of bridges, especially it's a 30-minute ride. There are a ton of bridges. Sacred Heart's probably one of the biggest hospitals in the area. Kootenai Health and Kootenai County Hospital is the other one over in the Kootenai County, which is where Coeur d'Alene is located. There was a procession later that night. I'm kind of getting ahead, at least on that timeline, but I want to talk about more details with this. But there was a procession later that night. This brush fire scene, this fire this is a tricky situation because it's no longer just a fire. It is a crime scene. And so they go through the procession later that night with all the cops, all the firefighters, anyone that was, on the scene and could do it. 2 firefighters lost their life. A third that almost did. He seems to be doing well, but is still very critically hurt, ailing, injured in his condition, that is. So they do a procession a few days later. On Tuesday, they do one coming back from this side all the way down back over to Kootenai to go lay to rest. And my mom and I were there. We were up on the bridge. There's a few other family friends that we know there. And, you know, there's a million firefighters just on our bridge. You can imagine the ones over in Coeur d'Alene. You can imagine the ones just even kind of like coming through Spokane and over to Coeur d'Alene. Again, it's a 30-minute drive. It's 30-ish miles. You can imagine how many bridges there are and just the amount of support. I've seen videos from people in the area. You know, there's a lifeline, which is a lifeline is the helicopter one. So like if you need to be medevaced via helicopter, you get into one of those and you go over to a hospital. So I'm not a firefighter. I'm not a first responder. I make content. It's a pretty easily safe job, I would say, and unless I put myself at risk in ways, you know, through my content. But firefighters in general, you know, they put out a few things. Like when I was even rear-ended, there was firefighters to put stuff out, you know, because, you know, there was a car crash. But when it becomes that your life is at risk because of somebody shooting you, I could only imagine what that feels like for all the other firefighters, ones that were, you know, maybe going to that scene and it became not just a fire and a brush fire, but became a crime scene. I want to at least talk about the victims, the injuries to the one firefighter. Battalion Chief Frank Harwood, he was 42 years old. He worked for the Kootenai County Fire and Rescue. He was one of the victims of this. He was one of the firefighters that was murdered. On top of that, Battalion Chief John Morrison, 52. He worked for the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department. He was murdered. And the injured firefighter engineer Dave Tisdale, cool last name, by the way. I don't think I've ever met anyone other than Ashley Tisdale. Spelt a little differently, but he was 47. He underwent 2 surgeries the day of and is in serious but stable condition as of right now. Now, again, when you're talking about just a normal call, and now with that happening, there's a bunch of policemen going on any firefighting call for a while, especially after this. Now, I would consider this a very freak accident, but you have to also think about it. What about if he was just one of many? Maybe he was plotting. There's been things that have circulated, which I want to talk about here. Now, I want to talk about anything in related to the ambush that we know, that we can confirm, that I want to talk about, because, again, this hits home. This is not very far from where I'm at. This was, again, very domestically United States worthy news. I'm sure maybe even Canada talked about it in, you know, some of the provinces right north of us. You also have to think about all the people on the internet that are talking about this. I know there was this one firefighter that does like ultra marathons. He was talking about it. The Mac guy from Barstool was talking about it. It's wild times. So my notes here, some of these do come from Wikipedia, of course, but these are also, you know, verified through the sources on the bottom. Now, the ambush and suspects. Now, again, my initial thought was like, this guy's got to be ex-military. There's no one that just casually knows how to use a sniper and to like hit shots in a way that is deadly and not just like to the leg or like I aim and I graze your ear. You know, something that happened last year. This is wild beyond any of my imagination, because the gunman, whose name is Wes Rowley, he is 20 years old. He is a year older than my sister. Just putting that into perspective, if you have a family member or a cousin or maybe a nephew, a niece, he is 20 years old. He just graduated high school no more than 3 years ago. So this is how it went. So apparently he set the blaze intentionally to lure firefighters into what was a trap. He used a sniper to carry out most of his attack. There have been a possible use of a shotgun, a 12-gauge shotgun, a slug shotgun, and possibly a 22 caliber rifle. This is more in terms of what they found when they found his body, because it seems like now, again, some of these details we do not know. These are not publicly known yet. But what it seems like is that either he took his own life or that he was killed during a law enforcement standoff. That is unknown from what I know and what I verified through many of these sources. But he was found dead on the mountain with a firearm by 7:40 p.m. This is nearly 5 hours after the first call went through 911. So, a day after the shooting, authorities identified the gunman as 20-year-old Wes Val Rowley. He was born May 1st of 2005. He is a California native. He had been recently living in Idaho as of 2023. Sheriff Robert Norris said Rowley appeared to have shot himself with a shotgun recovering beside his body. That's what, again, things like this have said. That's what it seems like. Now, again, I'd assume that he probably killed himself only because in one of the press conferences that one of the head chief firefighters and policemen working in tandem had mentioned was that when they pinged the phone, it had kind of been in the same area for quite some time. So they assumed that he was not moving. And so with that being said, there was an active shooter that they have no idea if he's just not moving or he is actually dead and had killed himself. So that seems to be things that were recovered next to his body. According to Norris, Rowley had 5 prior minor contacts with law enforcement, mostly trespassing calls and welfare checks, had no criminal record. And as of right now, investigators have not found any writing or signs of ideological motive. Now, a lot of people have been pointing to his dad or stepdad, that is, who is very MAGA, who is very neo-Nazi, who is very far-right leaning. And so with that said, there has been a lot of debate about that. And public records show that Rowley previously lived in California and Phoenix before he moved up here into Coeur d'Alene in 2023, so he's been in the area for quite some time. His grandfather, Dale Rowley, told reporters that the family are long-time arborists and that Wes wanted to be a fireman working in the forest. Now, again, this is just quotes from his grandfather. Now, again, especially if you are going to specifically target any firefighter or just anyone in general, there would have to likely be a motive. And so, again, when things like this happen, everyone's looking for said motive. One of the early motives, because it seems so hyper-specific to go after firemen and firefighters in general, that he was probably exiled from being a firefighter. Now, I think this is some line of thought that we've seen in things very previously. Maybe somebody wanting to be something and they couldn't. We've seen this even in The Incredibles, where Syndrome wants to be a superhero, but doesn't really get that opportunity because, Bob says, no, like, this is my job. And so that kind of becomes that villain arc in a way. You get turned down from what is maybe your dream job, so you try and sabotage said dream job. And that's exactly what many people leaned in as the motive. Now, Dale Rowley, the grandfather, added that his grandson owned a shotgun and a 22 caliber rifle, and investigators have confirmed a shotgun was used in the attack, but have not ruled out additional firearms. That's just crazy, man. That's just crazy. Sniper was definitely one of the main ones. Now, I wonder if, again, there's a million theories. I don't really want to go into them here because I just want to talk about things that have been proven versus my own opinions and thoughts. Now, detectives found Rowley heavily packed pickup truck in an embankment near the fire line and believe he had been living out of the vehicle in the weeks leading up to the shooting. Investigators also believe Rowley used a flint starter to ignite the brush, luring in firefighters into a said kill zone. Those are their words that they've used throughout press conferences. And during a news press press conference. On June 30th, authorities displayed a screenshot from what they said was Rowley's now deleted Instagram story, showing him in a dark camouflage and a mask with the Bjork song Hunter playing in the background. Now, I've seen this photo. It's typically what you would see anyone like going duck hunting in. They just kind of have like an overall kind of hoodie look, and they just have their eyes kind of painted, green and black, so they kind of blend in with the shrubs. And so that's what they had uncovered from his Instagram story. And as of the 30th of June, detectives have not established a motive and said the investigation into Rowley's background and possible intent was ongoing. That seems to still be pretty much the news as of right now. I have a feeling that this will take some time to understand. I know a lot of firefighters are mourning. There's been shirts going around. I'm sure people are taking advantage as they do around things like this, trying to get their money. So if you ever see any shirt like this, want to support any firefighters, especially because of this, make sure to try and find something through anything in this area. If not, then try your best to maybe donate to a memorial page if there is one. If I find any, I'll make sure to link them in the comment section or in the description, as well as the comment section on this video, just so you guys kind of know what I know, what's here in Spokane, and what I've seen kind of circulating in this area. So it's not somebody in like freaking Ohio trying to like sleaze some money over this tragic incident. Now, on top of that, when you're talking about a fire that is now turned into a crime scene and there is an active shooter, you can't just put more firefighters in the line of fire. Literally. Not just from a blazing fire, but the fire of the shooter. So that fire continued to blaze. And over 300 officers, including FBI and ATF, responded. A shelter-in-place order was briefly enacted for nearby areas. Firefighting efforts were paused, leading to a 23-acre fire before suppression resumed and reached approximately 75% containment by July 4th, which is super awesome. So it's been pretty hazy here over the last few days here in Spokane just because of that. But again, when things go from 1 to 100 or 0 to 100 really quick, that fire unfortunately does have to blaze because you could put more firefighters in the line. You have no idea if this guy is even dead, if he has more people, other people that are coming from different areas. You don't know if this is a one-off ambush. You don't know if this is a whole 20 people ambush. You have to imagine as if it's like you're a guerrilla and there's 100 people coming to attack you. In a way. So, as of right now, they are doing a statewide flag lowering, so half staff here in the area. The procession honored the fallen on the 30th, and now there's a huge investigation. So, it's unfortunate that someone got to the mental state where they thought that this was the answer. It is pretty crazy because I see it all the time. Having lived through 24, I was going to say 23, I'm 24 now, but having lived through a handful of these kind of like one-off ambushes or kind of targeted attacks. And now, yes, there's a few kind of propped up targeted attacks that maybe seem a little bit more minor in nature, but when there is death loss and, people are putting other lives to rest in a way, killing other people. I just feel like I've never seen a story like this where someone like him, who has guns, who has done harm to others, who has killed 2 people and critically injured a third, not killed themselves. It kind of feels weird to say, but I've just never really felt like you look at back last year on the assassination on Donald Trump during his campaigning and, where it grazed the year. He didn't kill himself. Would he have likely killed himself? Probably. There was the Brian Kohlberger things that just happened. I maybe want to talk about that next episode. Oh my gosh, I don't want to do grim to grim, back-to-back grim episodes. Guys, I'm not prepared for all the grimace right now. make sure everyone's okay in your life. Anyone that feels like they've done harm or is thinking about doing harm to other people or had done it. I mean, I think people can shame them for their actions, certainly. But I think there's also kind of some truth to them not being okay mentally in a way too. Because it's not like overnight things like that happen. I'm very heartbroken, especially just hearing how close it was to home. Like my dad's office over in Coeur d'Alene, they were like a street. The procession went like a street by his work, and that procession was not short. Up here in the Inland Northwest, we battle a lot of fires. Just I say we as if I'm part of them, but firefighters and other people, first responders, battle a lot of fires in this area. So to hear that someone decided to take it upon themselves to ambush any firefighter that was called in is awful. And like I mentioned, the precautions that they're taking in the area, it seems like some of the firefighters to any firefighting call are going to be accompanied by a police officer, someone that can actually protect them in this way. And I hope that we don't see anything more like this. It's going to be one of those very interesting stories that like you're going to hear on like the history of what happened this year during this day. There's really not much other things that happened on June 29th. And I know that there's this website that I look at, but like what happened in big international news? And I'm sure it'll be on there. But a reminder to check up on people that you maybe haven't heard from in a while. It never hurts. It never does. And so make sure to check up on people regardless of if you feel like you're close or not. Life is precious, and it sucks that lives have to be taken in this way, from the bombings to war. It sucks. However, in better news and more lighthearted news, the Prefontaine Classic, one of the best meets probably ever. It went by just like that, but I want to talk about some things that happened at this meet. Now, I thought about going to it because I was like, the Pre-Classic, it's the 50th edition of it, the 50th meet, the 50th year, that is, of it running. The Pre-Classic, Prefontaine, if you guys have ever watched the movie Pre or Can't Stop Pre, if you're a distance runner, you know who Prefontaine is. If you're a track guy, you probably know who Prefontaine is. He's very notorious in the world of track and field. He was one of those up-and-coming runners that kind of succumbed to alcoholism, and his potential will forever be unknown. And so he happened to go to Oregon. He died in a car crash, and this meet is named after his last name. His name's Steve Prefontaine, and he was one of the greatest distance runners to ever live during his time. And so him going to Oregon, this meet is also held at the Oregon University Center at Hayward Field. And this is quite honestly one of the greatest meets that I have witnessed in a very long time. Now, I put this up there even with meets like the World Championship. I put this up there with meets of the Olympics. This was an insane meet. So for anyone that doesn't know how track works, typically in a non-Olympic year, there is a normal season, there's a World Championship, and there's usually a league championship. Now, what they've done is that they've moved said league championship prior to the World Championship, where the end of the year track season is the World Championship. So a lot of people are peaking. Things have now moved a month and a half to 2 months kind of down the line. So it allows people to have more of a peak season throughout the summer and now even into September, which is when the World Championships are. Now, I say that this is one of the craziest meets because people right now, this is typically when U.S. trials are. This is typically like late June, typically. It's July 5th. People are coming off of typically their cycle of okay, this is the U.S. trials, this is my national trials, and now they get to go compete at world championships. It is insane to me that you can, oh my gosh, that people are peaking in this way at this time. Let's talk about some of the cool things that this meet offered. It was the first meet ever, well, not ever, it's one of the first meets ever that para-athletes have been combined with non-para-athletes. So someone with, maybe a prosthetic leg, maybe with some scoliosis. I say some scoliosis like it's just kind of an option, but some form of disability. But it allows for para-athletes to compete in a non-para-athlete event like this. They added 4 races. I don't exactly remember the races, but there was a men's 200, there was a women's 100, there was a wheelchair race, 800, and maybe one other one that I don't know the name of. But there was a Spokane athlete that competed. Her name is Taylor Swanson. She competed in the mixed para 100 meters. She clocked a time of 13 seconds flat. So congratulations, Taylor. Would love to have her on the podcast because she is from Spokane. She is a para-athlete. She is a Paralympian. So I would love to have her on. I met her at one of the all-comers meets last 3 weeks ago. She was there when I did my IRL live stream. She was there. So super cool with that she competed and got to compete with some of the best athletes in the world at Prefontaine. On top of that, some of the winners, Valerie Allman, who is on a undefeated streak for like 26 meets. She wins the women's discus and got the meet record. On top of that, Chase Jackson, who's been dominating in shot put ever since last year. I don't remember if she won the gold in Paris, but I know that she would have placed high if she didn't. She dominated in the women's shot put. Letziel Tobogo ran a world lead in the men's 200. In the men's 100, Kashane Thompson, this was a stacked meet for the 100. They had Christian Coleman. They had Zarno Hughes, they had Trayvon Bromell. These are some star-studded athletes that are competing right now in that 100. And he ran a time of 9:85. 9 in time. Oh my goodness. So he ran a time of 9:85, a super fast time. Not as fast as some of the other world-leading times, but sometimes it just depends on the day. But he won it. On top of that, we have Tara Davis Woodhall with a world lead in long jump, which she jumped a 7.07 meter on her final attempt, which is super cool, which we love to see that. Mondo Duplantis also attempted a world record at 6.29 meters in the pole vault. Now, you guys have probably seen Mondo. He's probably the greatest pole vaulter of all time. He continues just to break his own world record. And it's kind of crazy because once he retires, there are going to be people that are going to be like, wow, he was really good. Yeah, he's really good. He attempted 6.29, did not end up getting it, but also super cool to see a world record attempt. Joe Kovacs, who threw a world lead of 22.48 meters in the men's shot put. Sydney McLaughlin-Lavroni ran her first true open 400 meter and attempted to kind of break the American record, which she did not get, but it's super awesome to see her trying to chase that, especially because she's so dominant on the hurdles, that it's exciting to see what it looks like without the hurdles. So super awesome to see there. On top of that, we had an unreal fight in the women's 100 between Melissa Jefferson Wooden, who was a part of the Grand Slam Track League, had won, was undefeated. And on top of that, Julian Alfred, who was the women's 100 gold medalist in Paris? That doesn't sound right. Maybe that is right. I thought Sha'Carri won it. Why do I not remember? She won a medal for St. Lucia, and that was super big news. So she won a medal at least at Paris. I know, because I know Gabby Thomas won the 200. Why do I not remember Julian Alfred? Let me look it up real fast because I want to get this correct. It's going to annoy me. Julian Alfred Olympic medals. Let's see. Oh, she did win the gold medal in the Summer Olympics. Okay, I'm not tripping because I know she got second in the 200. I knew that because I knew Gabby won, but she won gold. Okay, she won gold. I don't want to cut that short, but Melissa Jefferson Wooden, who's now recently married, who's living her best life, winning all these Grand Slam checks, and on top of that, is probably the best the best sprinter in the women's 100 right now. She continues her undefeated streak. She won by 500th of a second, if I'm not wrong, between her and Julian Alfred. Super cool race to watch. Now, on top of that, there were a few bummers because of Thing Mo. She now has a last name. I do not know how to pronounce it, so I've decided to not add it to this. But a Thing Mo, Jesus Christ. It looks like Moo. It's M-U, but you pronounce it Mo, like M-O, like Mo. A Thing Mo. Yeah, a Thing Mo. She did not perform well in the 800. It was her second race since the trials, because she actually fell at the trials and was probably going to be on the American USA 800 team and probably would have done pretty well in Paris. But unfortunately, did fall at the 200 meter and was not in that race no longer. And she did not perform well in here. Sha'Carri Richardson also got dead last in the 100. It was not a great race for her. It sucks to see just because, these are people that have been good for a handful of years. They're coming back from maybe a little slump or just kind of a down year. And unfortunately, they kind of also do not perform well because they are big names in sports. They are a big name in track and field. And for them to not perform well, it does kind of hurt. So with that, we have some historic wins. That's okay. Thank you. I have 15 minutes left, so we're going to finish this up. Okay. We have some historic wins here and some things that I want to talk about. Winfried Jaffe broke the meet record in the women's 3,000-meter steeplechase by over 8 seconds and was shy of the world record by 1 second, which is insane to think about because steeplechase is already hard as it is. To be peaking at this time in this part of the season, it is nuts. To be getting historic meet records, and on top of that, and again, 8 seconds off the meet record. 8 seconds in a 3,000-meter race. Now, yes, if you were to do that in like the marathon when there's like miles, there's 26.2 miles that you can do that, but for you to do that in the 3,000, 8-second meet record, but nearly 1 second off, just 1 second off from the world record is nuts. On top of that, the men's Bowerman Mile comeback win. Jared Naguse led for basically all 16:09, more like 16:09.5 meters. It was insane. Niles, what's his name? I have it down here. Hold on. But Jared Naguse, one of my favorite athletes, a Dutch athlete by the name of, where you at, my guy? Niles Laros. He won by 100th of a second. When I talk about 16:09, because this is a true mile, 16:09 meters, 16:08.5 meters, Jared Naguse led, non-pacer, because they had pacers in these races. He wanted it so bad and just came 100th of a second short. I feel so bad for him because he's never really won many things. He's always kind of come second, or he got third in the last year's 1,500 meter finals in Paris. I feel for him, man. I feel for him. I hate to see it. It's so sad. It is so freaking sad. So, on top of that, Beatrice Chebet, 5,000-meter runner. She ran a world record on the track. Now, mind you, the true 5,000 world record is 13:54. Beatrice Chebet ran a 13:58.06 5,000-meter world record, was facing the actual 5,000 meter on any surface world record. Another athlete, I forget their last name, Sagai and Najet. I think that's her last name. Something along the lines of that. But Sagai, who is fantastic. She is a killer at the 5K. She holds the overall 5K world record on any surface at 13:54. But on the track is a lot different. She ran a time of 13:58.06 and was your brand new world record holder on that. Super cool to see. On top of that, Faith Kipyegon. We talked about her last week because she did the Breaking 4 project. She was trying to break 4 for the first time in pretty much women's history, that is. She was trying to be the first woman ever to run sub 4. She ran a 4:06.41, but today she ran in the 1,500 meters, so a little less than 16:09, again, talking about the Bowerman Mile and the 4-minute mile. Instead of a 1609, she was running 109 meters less, a 1500. Now, this is her event. Oh my gosh, this is her freaking event. She ran a world record time, probably breaking her own, of 3:48.68. And the craziest part about that is, with converted time to a true mile, now I say this because this time is actually the time that showed up on the broadcast. It was 4:06.92. That was the time that showed up during the Breaking 4 broadcast over in Paris. The converted time of this 3:48.68 is 4:06.91. You know how exciting that is? You know how insane that is? That basically you ran the exact same basic race in that amount of time. That's crazy. That's so freaking cool, man. I mean, it just shows why she's the GOAT. She's one of the greatest distance runners of all time. I said that in the short that I made on it, and she held the 5K. She then got beat. She holds the 15K. I don't know what to say, man. I really do not know what to say. She is on a heater right now, and the celebration she had was insane. It was so insane. She kept dreaming. She broke the world record in the mile last week. She comes back and runs in Prefontaine this week and breaks the 1,500 meter world record. Oh my gosh. That is insane. That's so cool. It's so freaking cool. So freaking cool. We have about 10 minutes left on this thing, but I want to at least close this off with this. I'm in a boot right now. I'm healing my foot injury that I've dealt with for over a year and a half now. And so I'm finally getting the opportunity to heal it with a proper boot that's in an air cast. So I have crutches over there. I'm on this boot. This chair, by the way, is supposed to have 4 prongs of screws in it. It has 3 right now. One of them fell. This is it right here. This is it. This fell. So what I'm going to go do now is I'm going to go get all of this podcast stuff done. So that's what we're going to go do. I have a bag that I carried all my equipment down with, so I'm going to go do that. Thank you guys again, most importantly, so much for watching today's episode of The Realest Podcast, episode 77. Banner is right behind me. I love each and every single one of you guys. Make sure to subscribe to this channel if you guys haven't already and made it to this part of the podcast. I'm sure you enjoyed it if you made it this far. So make sure to subscribe so you do not miss on any episodes, out every Sunday at noon Pacific time. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. 07 and peace.